afternoon. Today on the PIO Podcast, we'd like to welcome Director of Communications and Public Affairs for the Tampa Police Department, Jonee Lewis. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I've heard a lot about it. Never thought that I'd be a guest, but here we go.
Jonee, you know what? If I could get somebody on from one of the major police departments in the country, like TPD, I definitely was going to get you on at one point or another. I appreciate you being willing to get on here in your busy schedule. I'm sure you've got a lot going on there, just like everybody does, so I appreciate you taking the time out. So,
Thank you for having me.
like I ask all my questions for my guests, I'm going to ask one simple one. What is your background and how did you become the Director of Communications and Public Affairs for TPD?
Well, I have a media background. So I went to school for broadcast journalism. My background is going from producer to reporter to anchor. So that's my experience. And my goal was always to get to my home market, which is Tampa. Got here a couple years ago. And when it came time for my contract to end, I was just evaluating what do I want my life to look like in the next few years. Now that I'm home and I fulfilled that dream, are there other avenues or opportunities for me to serve? And one thing that I noticed while being at home is that a lot of the PIOs that work in Tampa had previous media experience. So I thought that that was interesting. And so I just started to speak with them and talk with them about, why did they make the transition? Do they feel fulfilled and like they're serving their community? And things just kind of fell into place where while I was looking, this job open, I said, I'm just going to talk to the person that had the job before me because she had a previous media background, talk with her. And she's like, you know what? Just put in the application, see what happens. Put in the application. And I started interviewing and I'm like, wow, this could be something that I think that I could do. And I went through several rounds of the interview process and just the way that it unfolded, you just know that this was the job that I was supposed to take. This was the right place that I was supposed to be. And it kind of just fell into it. And so for the last year, I have been enjoying making this transition into the PIO world.
That's awesome. It's amazing how so many people come out of the years ago. It used to never be that way. It was always a sworn member of the department. And that's the way I came in when I was in my department. And then when I transitioned to civilian life, I ended up going as a civilian PIO, having background, not in media. I have a lot of family in the media. I have a daughter now that's in the media. So but it's interesting because there's a lot more stability for you guys as you get older to be in this position as opposed to have to renegotiate a contract every couple of years, hope that you're going to stay in the same location. And then if you settle down, what are you going to do? You've got to start to think, what am I going to give up? And so on. So this really works out as a good opportunity for you. And it's a great market to be in.
It's so great. And I think you touched on it. I finally got home and I'm like, if I have to move again, I'm going to have to start over. I'm going to have to be weekends. I'm going to have to work my way up. And family is important to me. And I do want to settle down. I do want to have a family. So this decision was about positioning myself to go down that path.
Outstanding. And as I do my research on everybody, I look for, I read about everybody. I read their stories that they're good put out. I didn't realize you were an award-winning PIO. Congratulations for receiving the Management of Critical Incident Award from the NIOA for that incident, that tragedy that happened in Ybor City in 2023. Thank you very much for that. So I noticed that was like a month after you started. All right. So can you tell our listeners about that?
True on the job training. And I don't think anything could have prepared me for receiving that call 3 o'clock in the morning on that Sunday. That was my first call out. And when I got the call from our assistant director, it was like, we have a shooting. We have a lot of people that have been shot. Like I thought it was a dream. And so the whole time I'm driving there to that scene, you can't really process anything like that. And then when you get to the scene, this is my first time of something of this magnitude being behind the crime scene tape, because as a reporter, you're on the other side. And when you walk to a scene like that and you see almost where everyone froze in the moment where the shots were fired, this is a Halloween weekend. There are a lot of people out there. There are a lot of costumes. And when you see that people ran out of their shoes and they dropped, their phones and their makeup, it just stops you. And I was like, wow, people's lives are never going to be the same, after seeing something like that. And it makes you have a deeper appreciation for law enforcement and all that they do and all that they see all of the time. And once you get over that initial, wow, this happened, and praying for the victims and figuring out where everyone is, then it's the reporters are there. It's trying to manage the scene and set up a media staging area and prepare the chief and get out what information that we have. So this was truly a moment where I was learning as I was going and responding on my natural instincts. And thankfully, we have a great command staff, we have a great command team. Couldn't have done any of this without the amazing team here at the Tampa Police Department here in the Public Information Office.
And speaking about the Public Information Office, how big of a unit is it? How many people work in there?
So when I started, we had two PIOs, and then I came in and filled the third spot, an officer and a videographer. Since being here, we've added another position, so I'm so grateful for that. We just hired her actually 2 weeks ago. We have now a multimedia coordinator. So she will work closely with our videographer, but her role is producing videos and features for social media and kind of building up and learning the ropes to be able to step into that PIO role. So I'm very grateful for the growth here.
So for the size of TPD and the kind of things that it handles, that's a relatively small unit.
Yeah. Yeah. Small, but very mighty. I would not pick any other team. This is the best team.
Outstanding. Outstanding. All right. So you kind of already alluded into my next question, what you were feeling like when you first got that phone call. So you were kind of like, oh my God, shock. Am I
Yeah,
dreaming?
shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was shocking, and then to get there and to see it, and then we have to respond. That morning I went with the chief as he's speaking with the victims' families and notifying them, and it's just such a somber and surreal moment to know that while you're working and while these stories will be coming out, that these families, their lives are never going to be the same. So it definitely was somber and very sobering.
Oh, I'm sure it was. And it's been a kind of a busy news year for you guys at TPD, especially after the shooting of rapper Julio Folio or
Hmm.
Folio. That type of shooting, Folio. That type of shooting attracts a lot of national attention, obviously. How did you guys handle that?
It's very busy. So, the way our office is structured is that we each have an on call week. So this incident just happened to happen when it was my on call week. So I got the call
Of
from the
course.
commander, and she's like, we have this situation going on. I'm like, okay, I'm headed out there. Tell me where the media staging area is. And so this is during the Sunday morning shows, which are a little later. So I give live updates. And then once word starts getting out that it's a well-known rapper, we are flooded with the phones ringing, the emails from national outlets, from the Jacksonville market wanting to confirm. So when you have a situation like that, you have to try to get out as information as quickly as possible when we can. So we're using social media. We recently switched over to a new alert system to help us get out information.
What system are you using now?
To a MailChimp system from the media alert system. So this allows us to have
I'm sorry,
updated
Joni, you cut
banner.
out. You cut out a second. Janae, what was the question? What was the software?
Okay, so we're now using the MailChimp news alert system to send out our news releases. We were previously using Media Alert, but this just allows us to create a more modern look. We have nice banners. We can include links and videos and pictures, and it really just matches our overall theme and branding that we're trying to use for the department.
Outstanding. That's awesome. Did you bring that in? Was that something that you wanted to bring in?
We just talked about as a team. We worked on, when I started with the chief, our strategic communications plan. And as a part of that, it was just being consistent across the board with how we're getting out information and putting it in a format that's really easy for the public to see. And with that, we're like, we need to step up a little bit with our system with how we're releasing it. So we updated our color scheme. We made a small update to our mission statement, our core values, and it's really gone over well. We have great buy-in from the department. The community is starting to recognize it. So that's been something that our office has all worked on, and we're very proud of that.
Outstanding. So you've been in this position about just over a year now. Can you
Just hit my
reflect?
1 year.
Yeah, awesome. Can you reflect to when you started? What were your thoughts coming into the position besides the shooting?
I don't think I knew how big this role was and how much we do. I thought coming in, I respond to media, do a few interviews, but there's so much more to what we do. We handle our internal and external communications. We have to consider, getting out messaging to the officers. We help with speeches. We MC our award show. So there's so much to this position, but it is so rewarding and so fulfilling. I love it every day because one day we could be at a scene, one day we could be at an award ceremony, one day we're at a community event, where you're highlighting the great things that we're doing. So there's a lot that comes with this job and it's a lot of responsibility. But I feel like I've grown tremendously in this last year, just as a person, as a leader. I have a greater understanding of my community, of law enforcement, and it's just really a pleasure to work at a police department.
Awesome. So, Jonee, as you continue this adventure with TPD, what would you like to see the department do more in the way of communications and outreach, if at all?
Well, you're starting to see some of it with this position, but getting out more of those video features, showcasing and highlighting the great things that our officers are doing. We have a new recruitment video. So showing all of the opportunities that are within the department. They launched this before I started here, but our Town Hall Tuesdays have been really a great way to reach out and interact with the community. So really it's just continuing all of the wonderful things that we're doing and making sure that people know about it.
Outstanding. In the area of social media, what platforms are you guys currently utilizing?
So we're on the main ones: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever you call it. We also use Nextdoor as well.
And are there any platforms you'd like to see the department utilize more effectively?
Well, I think we do a good job. Obviously, we definitely wanting to use Twitter X mainly for breaking news, but tapping into Instagram and doing more videos and fun graphics, possibly incorporating more lives into it. Some of the ideas that we have and things that we're playing with, like scheduled lives where you can interact with different members of the department or ask recruiter questions. We're always looking at departments' social media to see what they're doing, what's working well, going to trainings as well to see, what should we be looking at.
And now that you have a dedicated multimedia specialist, that's going to really help because they'll be able to coordinate with the videographer instead of the PIO always having to come up with the ideas.
Mm.
You might have the general idea, but they're going to come up with the meat and the potatoes of it instead of you having to do it all, which can be exhausting.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, social media, it's a lot of work for because you have to produce specific content for that in addition to all the other platforms. So it's really great having that person here now.
Do you guys use YouTube at all?
We do use YouTube, and one thing that we've started doing is putting our news conferences in its entirety on our YouTube page so that the community they can go and they can watch it in its entirety. And that's important, when you're talking about transparency and on the broadcast, they can only get a small piece of it. So that's one thing that we've been doing. We worked on also producing longer form department features for, Women's History Month. Right now it's Hispanic Heritage Month. So we're working on those features as well. So people can go and get to learn more about it. And also for the members, when they're highlighted, they can share that with their family so that they can see, what they're doing and what's going on and how much we value them. So yes.
You brought up the department members. Are you doing any kind of separate internal communications for them as well?
Yes. So we've really honed in on making sure that they're getting messaging from the chief. So every month we produce a chief's brief where we report a video from the chief that's giving them updates on things that might be coming up, things that he's hearing, as well as events, who's been awarded an honor that month, our officer of the month, our employee of the month. And we've also worked to create our assistant director an internal news show. It's called the 1043, which is our code for information. And so that features our catch of the month, which is we're asking for nominations, which gives highlights a big bust by a squad, showing them some love for the crime fight, any legal bulletins, anything happening related to community oriented policing. So that's a resource for them. We have more than 1,000 officers so that they can go to our internal website and see what's going on. But we also want to show them some love and highlight and let that be, motivating tool as well.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're doing that. So many departments still struggle to do that internal communications. They think just sending an email is a good thing, and you really got to give a little bit more to these guys and gals that are doing this stuff 24/7. They need to know that the department is behind them 100%.
I agree wholeheartedly, and they shouldn't only see that in the media. They should see it and hear from it from their commanders as well. So that's something that we've really tried to make sure that we consider.
Absolutely. Janae, artificial intelligence is one of those growing presence in all aspects of our lives. As someone who has a master's in mass communication, what are your thoughts about the use of it in public information?
It's one of those things I feel like I'm asking all my PIO friends and conferences. I'm like, do you use it? How are you using it? It's something that I want to learn about. And I attended a FBI LEDA class this year, and they were showing us websites that you can use to kind of put in to create news releases and stuff. So I'm not using it yet, but what I will do is paste something in to see what they would do because I'm just curious to see and learn more about how it works. So it's definitely something that we'll be talking a lot more about in this industry as it grows in popularity.
I think in the grand scheme of it, and I've done quite a lot. I've actually published a couple articles about AI in the public information field. One of the things that I think that we'll find is there's some workflows that can be done and automated to make life easier for us, especially in regards to like sentiment analysis and so on via social media, which the AI can handle for you. And those are things as the technology gets better, it's going to make life easier for us. It's never going to replace us because they're still going to need that person behind it all. And I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of. Oh my God, AI is going to take over and it's gonna eliminate my position. It's never going. Our positions are never going away. They need to be there.
I agree. It's a tool that if used the right way, it can enhance, but certainly not replace.
Absolutely. So, Janae, do you coordinate or partner up with any of the other agencies around you, like Hillsborough County, their PIO, or any of the local PIOs in the other jurisdictions around you?
Absolutely. And we have great relationships. In fact, earlier this year, because there's been, you know how it is, there's been a lot of change and turnover and people moving from one department to another. We hosted a PIO town hall. And this was just to bring our PIOs in different sectors into one place to one, get to know who is the PIO, talk about maybe some challenges that we're facing, and to make sure we have up to date contact information and to start to build those relationships because there's so many things that we are going to work together on. So it's important to know each other and have those relationships. And we'll pick up the phone and call each other all the time, like, hey, I'm thinking about updating this policy. I'm thinking about adding this platform. Have you used it? What's your experience or how have you worded it? So great to have that network.
That's awesome. And how about the relationship with the news media? Obviously, you came from the news media, but do you have like an annual meeting to sit down with them and talk about, hey, these are things that this is what I'd like you to do. If you need information, don't necessarily call me at 3 in the morning. This is the dedicated PIO line that you call, that kind of thing.
Yes, we do. In fact, maybe last month or the month before, the sheriff's office actually hosted one where they invited the media, and we try to. Thankfully, the new reporters they'll reach out and say, "Hey, I'm new to the area. Just want to introduce myself," and we use that as an opportunity to, let them know about the office, how it works, when we work, and who you can reach if you need something, and even explaining just public records and the volume of public records and how it's processed. So I think it's really important to have a good relationship with the media, be as transparent as possible, and try to work with them because ultimately it's for serving and informing the community.
Yeah, I agree. Janae, it's been a while since I asked anybody this in Florida. Do you guys, because like an officer involved shooting, does your agency handle the investigation? Or does it get handed over to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
It's handed immediately over to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. So
Okay.
FDLE takes over the investigation.
So then there's no like video that you're going to produce in regards to the incident. Is that going to come out of them?
No, so we work with them. So they take over the actual shooting part, and
Okay.
then we do our own internal thing. But we work with them to put out video because we do want to be transparent and get out that BWC as soon as we can. So we kind of let them know, hey, this is what we'd like to put out. And they give the yay or nay. And 9 times out of 10, they're okay with it.
And is that something that comes out of your office or does that come out of somebody else's office?
Yes, so it comes out of our office. Now we do have a BWC unit that will assist in pulling and compiling the video, but in terms of editing it, getting it uploaded and out to the media, we take that role.
And do you put together a whole critical incident video briefing or is it just the body camera video sent out?
Usually in a situation like that, we probably would have had a news conference when it happens. And then in the updated release, we put out the BWC and any new information simply because FDLE is the primary investigator.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. Janae, is there a question I should have asked? And if so, how would you have answered it?
I don't think so. I think we touched on everything, but going back to something that you mentioned earlier, one thing I've learned in talking with other departments is that this is a newer trend, bringing in someone from the media to take on a role like this. But I would just suggest departments to look at it. I found that we bring a different perspective, and I think coming in with my perspective and hearing the department's perspective really is a great tool to just informing the public and having those important conversations, and even just diversity within the office is important as we're trying to talk to and inform our communities.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that there is a great benefit to having civilian person that is your talk and your connection to the community. It takes, I know they always want to have the uniform, and I know that that counterpart across the way, Grady Judd, wants to, he's always out there. But the reality of it is sometimes they don't want to see the uniform. They don't want to see the badge, and now that they want to see that person that they've connected with in a different way. And having somebody from the media or a civilian person that's not law enforcement yet or was never law enforcement is sometimes a better fit.
Yeah, I think there's value in both. It's important to have both because you need to consider so many audiences, but I'm seeing more departments, one, even create a public information officer position, and then two, bring in civilians into that role. So,
Right, right. All right, Jonee, let's go into some rapid fire questions.
okay,
Texting or talking?
texting,
Yeah, movie or book?
book,
Coffee or tea or energy drink?
coffee, and tea. Depends on the day.
Adult drink of choice?
I am actually a mocktail girl.
Nice. What would be your superpower if you could have one?
Reading minds.
Ask permission or beg for forgiveness?
I'm going to say ask permission.
What
Usually.
place? Okay. What place do you most want to travel to?
Africa is my dream.
What part of Africa?
South Africa. I want to
Okay.
do the safari and take the day trips where you go between different parts. So that's like my dream trip. That's like
Awesome.
a 2 or 3 week trip.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. What's your favorite way to relax after a long day?
Listen to music.
If you could choose to have coffee with any historical figure, living or dead, who would it be?
Any historical figure, living or dead, who would it be? Probably Oprah.
Okay. She'd be interesting. Yeah, she would be interesting.
Yes.
She's from my hometown, so yeah, I can see that. Final thoughts. What key points would you like listeners to take from today's interview?
I guess I would say to just trust your journey and trust your timing. I never thought that my path would lead me into a role like this one. My faith plays a big role in my life, and I think that everything that I did prepared me to be here. So I would say that trust your journey and your timing. I would say always be a learner. This is a new transition and a new role for me, and I'm learning something every single day and just a forever student. So I think that, and then just communication. Communicate in your office, communicate in your department, communicate to your community.
Outstanding. As we wrap up, is there a piece of wisdom or a motto that you live by?
I actually have this motto written on my wall here, and I saw it shared on LinkedIn by Judy Powell, but it says, whoever speaks first has power over the message. And so I always go back to that, and I always bring that up when we're talking about, should we do that interview? Should we give the comment? Should we speak? Yep. Just put it out there.
Judy Pell is the queen, man. She is the queen.
Yes.
Jonee, how could people best reach you if they want to connect or follow up on anything that they learned today?
Okay, I'm on all the social media platforms, Jonee Lewis TV. I couldn't change everything over on LinkedIn, and my email address is on the TPD PIO website too. So,
and I will
I
put all
welcome
those
feedback.
And I will put all those links out on the show notes so people
Okay.
can find it easy that way. Jonee, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. This is my first time, doing something like this in my role as a PIO. So I just appreciate you for having me and creating this platform where we can speak and share our experiences, but also learn from one another. So thank you.
Yeah, it has been a passion project of mine for the last 4 going into 5 years, and going to keep going with it. I just got a major sponsor for next year, so I'm gonna not have to pay out of pocket.
Awesome. That means you're doing it right.
Yep. All right, Jonee, thank you.
Thank you for having me.